It blows my mind that developers in 2025 are still building Tailwind components without this one thing. You have no idea how much better your components could be. This one thing is absolutely non-negotiable in your app and solves Tailwind's biggest issue. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is with Tailwind and exactly how we could fix it using a crazy good upgrade that I've been using professionally for a while now. Let's get it. Let's say I have a scenario where there are 4 different types of buttons I can have in my app. We've got a generic green button for confirmation type clicks, we've got a ghost button with no background color but a border, we've got a yellow caution button, and then a red danger button. As we build out our app, we're going to be using these different types of buttons in all sorts of different components. So let's say below I have these 2 components down here, component 1 and component 2. We'll say for example that in component 1 I want to render a caution button. So logically, I'd be like, okay, we already have the caution button right here. We have all the styling on it, including the yellow background color. So what I might do, for instance, is take this exact button here, literally copy it verbatim, go into component 1, and just paste that in. And now I have it in here. And if I save this file, let me comment this out, and I display component 1, now we have a caution button inside of component 1. And then right after doing this, I say, all right, let's make a second component down here that I'm just going to call component 2. And in this component, for instance, I want to have a danger button. So I would take this code right here, this danger button code, copy all of it, go into component 2, paste it in, and now I also have component 2 down here that has a danger button inside of it. And now we're using both the caution and danger buttons in 2 different spots, once up here and then once for each down here. And this works fine, however this is not the way Tailwind is designed to be used. The point of Tailwind is to be used with modern web frameworks or libraries like React where we can create reusable components. This stops us from having to do something like this where we just take the code verbatim, copy it, and then paste it wherever we want. This is not maintainable and it's also just not good practice. Instead of copy and pasting the code for the caution button everywhere that we want to use it, if we're using something like React, we might create a component just called caution button. And what we would do is take all the code for caution button, copy it, we would just put it in here, and now wherever we want a caution button in our app, we can just render this caution button component instead of having to copy and paste everywhere. Not only could we do this for the caution button, we could also do it for every other button. We could have a button for the ghost button that has the ghost styles, one for the danger button, and one for the confirm button. Now that we have these and we look over at our file explorer over here, we have this buttons folder with our 4 buttons, and they're all just button variants. And whenever we want to use each one, we just use that exact component. So for example, in my component 1, this right here is a caution button. So instead of having to copy and paste the code, all I have to do is render out caution button like this. And now it's the same thing, but the code is reusable. The same thing applies for component 2. If I want to render out a danger button right here, I don't have to have this boilerplate just copied code. I could go in here, say danger button, and now it works the exact same way, again with reusable code. This inherently is the way that Tailwind is designed to be used. When you combine Tailwind class names like this with modular component systems like React has, you get Tailwind class names that you don't have to just copy and paste everywhere in your code. But there is a huge problem with this, and it's one of the big complaints about Tailwind. We are supporting modularity at the expense of scale. What I mean by that is as we start making more variants of the exact same button, we have to create a new component for every single one. We could legitimately end up having something like this, where we literally have like 10 different button components that do the exact same thing, but are just styled slightly differently. So we could have something like caution button, confirm button, cool button, done button, loading button, essentially a huge bloat of buttons that all pretty much do the exact same thing. They're just styled slightly differently. If you're working on a tiny app, this is probably not going to be an issue. However, if you have any sort of scale to your app, this is going to start getting stupid really quickly. We're following the Tailwind paradigm of componentizing your class names, so we don't have to copy and paste the same code over and over again. But in doing that, we're introducing an insane level of bloat to our app. And once we start to scale up and build within an actual design system, this can absolutely become unsustainable very quickly. You should not do something like this. This is a bad design practice. So what's the alternative? It seems like either we copy and paste class names everywhere and break the React principle of reusable code, or we make reusable code but bloat the hell out of our app like this and just make it spaghetti. But fear not, I have the perfect solution for you. A way to write a single button component that I can use anywhere. I could literally replace every single one of these buttons right here with a single one called button and keep the exact same functionality. The way that we can do that is by leveraging an amazing package called Tailwind Variants. This is not just some random package I happened to stumble upon. It has over 1 million weekly downloads because the problem I just described is a very common issue with Tailwind, and this is by far the best package I've seen that actually addresses it. What it allows for us to do is create different styling variants for the exact same thing. In our example, our button component. Let me show you how it works. All of these button components that you're seeing over here are complete garbage. Let's delete every single one of them like this, and we'll just make a new button, a single button, button.tsx. We'll use the tsrfc shortcut to create the component, and at the very bottom of this file, I'm going to paste in the styles that we had for our 4 main button variants. We had our confirm button that was like this, ghost button, caution button, and our danger button. Now, let's use Tailwind Variants to make this button component fire. Go ahead and open up your terminal. I'll go into a new one here and just run npmi tailwind-variants, and you'll also want to install tailwind-merge. With this installed, what we can do now is we can go to the bottom of the file here. We can make a new variable. We're going to say const button equals tv. This is imported from Tailwind Variants, and we're going to call it like a function. It just takes in one argument, and that is going to be an object. There are 2 properties in this object that we care about right now. The first one is one called base. We need to ask ourselves, what are the shared styles between every single button variant that we have? So again, we have our 4 button types down here. Now, what exactly is shared between them? Well, if you notice, if I hover over the width, padding, roundedness, and the hover behavior of every single component, they are shared between all 4 of them. No matter which button variant we have, they're always going to have these base styles on them. So we're going to take these Tailwind utilities exactly as they are. We're going to copy them. We're going to make a string for base, and we're going to paste those styles in like this. With Tailwind Variants, what should go in this base field is every single style that is shared between all of your variants. So if you have 50 different variants of the same thing, because they are all based on the same thing, like in our example, they're all based on a button, there should usually be shared classes between them. Styles like padding, roundedness, and hover behaviors are pretty common examples of styles that are typically shared between variants. Once you have the styles that are shared between all variants in your base field, here's where the magic happens. The next property you should give this is one just called variants, and this is going to be an object. We have 4 different types of button: confirm, ghost, caution, and danger. So in variants, we're going to make another object in here called type, just like this. And right here is where we can specify the styles for each of our 4 button types. How we would do it is like this. For our confirm type, we would do this. We would say confirm, colon, we would take the styles that are just unique to the confirm button. So look over here, that appears to just be this BG green 500. So we would take this, we would copy it, make it a string here, and paste it in just like this. And then we would do the exact same for the other 3. So comma here, let's do ghost. If we look at the ghost button, it looks like the ghost button has a few more styles that are unique to it, these right here. So we'll take these, copy it, and paste them right here. Essentially, for each one of these, all we are doing is just taking the styles that are completely unique to this button that aren't shared between other buttons. So for the caution button, that would be this BG yellow here. That's what makes it a caution button after all. And then lastly, for the danger button, you go down here, you would see it has this BG red 500. So we would copy that, go up here, again, make it a string, and paste that in. This right here is the core of Tailwind Variants. We have base, which is all the styles that are shared between every single type of variant that we have. And then we have this variants object, where we can specify the things we want variants of. We're calling our variant type, but it can be named whatever you want it to be. And inside of this, we just put all our variants, our confirm, ghost, caution, and danger buttons. Again, reiterating, inside of each variant field here is the styles that make that variant unique. So if we go back to our page here, we know our ghost button is going to be purple and have this border, so we have these styles. Our confirm button is the green background, so we have these styles. I think you get the picture. Now that we have this, let me show you how this button Tailwind variant is actually used. All we have to do is something super simple. We just go to our button element that we want to use. We would make sure this is not a div, but an actual button. Just like this, we can go ahead and give this button a class name. And all we need to do is call button like this as if it were a function. And that references this Tailwind variant down here. Sometimes to not get confusing, instead of doing button, I might do something like, I don't know, button styles, just to be explicit. It doesn't matter what you name it, as long as in your class name, you're using the variants like a function. What we can do now inside of this call here is give it an object. And now we can specify each variant that we want. For example, we have a variant that we called type right here. So what I can do is say something like, I don't know, type, and then we'll just say ghost, just like this. Now if I go ahead and save this right here, I go back to our app, and I go ahead and just remove all of these here. Let me just get rid of these to make some space. Get rid of all these. I'll comment this out. Instead of rendering a ghost button, how we did before, all we can do here is say button with the component we just made, render it just like this, and now we have a ghost button on our page. Basically, in our button component, now whatever variant that we want to display, we just put right here in the type. So right now it's type ghost. If I wanted it to be a danger button instead of a ghost button, I would just say type danger, go ahead and save it, and now this is a danger button. By itself, this doesn't help us too much because we're still hard coding in a type right here. Right now, this is just hard-coded to danger, so everywhere where a button is rendered, it's always going to be a danger button. The way that you 10x the usefulness of Tailwind Variants and use it how it's supposed to be used is to combine these variants with props in React, or the equivalent with any other framework. For example, in React, I can add a type now to our props that will actually call type like this, and I could just say string, or if I wanted to be explicit, I could say something like confirm, or ghost, or caution, or danger. And these are the types that I can pass in. In our button, for our props, I can deconstruct type here and just pass that type in directly to our variants. Now, watch the magic happen. If I go ahead and save this now, I go back to our app here. TypeScript will complain because we want type on it, but we don't have it. So I'll say type equals quotes. And then if I control space here to get IntelliSense, you can see we have our 4 types: caution, confirm, danger, or ghost. I'll click on confirm, go ahead and save it, and now we have a confirm button. But actually, I changed my mind. I want it to be a caution button instead, so let's make this caution. Now it's a caution button. What I can do now is, instead of having what I started with, where I have just a button with a bunch of copy and pasted class names, is for each one of these, I could go in here and say, okay, I want this right here to be the confirm button. So we'll make this confirm just like this. This right here, I want this to be the caution button. This will change back to ghost. And then we'll say this one is going to be the danger button. And if I go ahead and save it, we're right back where we started. We have the exact same visual output that we started with, yet we're using a single reusable shareable component that can dynamically change its look based on whatever type that we give it. And this is the magic of Tailwind Variants. I could keep expanding on this wherever I want to use any of these components. For example, if I uncomment these components down here and I re-import them and I go to component 1, before we wanted to have a caution button, but obviously it does not exist anymore. Now, all we have to do is render out button, make sure we get that imported, and we can just give it type caution, and it'll do the exact same thing that it did before. For component 2, same exact thing. We don't have a danger button anymore. We just have a single generic button that we can pass in a type to it, give it type danger, import it, and save it. And now we have these 2 components that are using the reusable and shared button. With Tailwind Variants, we have just solved both problems that we had before. We don't have to copy and paste code everywhere. We have all of our code in a single reusable component just called button. Because it's all in one button, we also don't have 15 different components for each one of our variants. All we have is this Tailwind Variants function down here that handles all of our variants for us. And it's really that simple. And I want to make a big statement right here. If you're going to use Tailwind, this is how shared components should be built. Especially if you're wanting to adhere to a design system and create a Tailwind app that scales great with app complexity. So what happens when your manager comes up to you and says, hey, we need a new button that is orange? Cool. All you have to do is go into button here, say, all right, we have a new button that is orange. Let's give it BG Orange 500 like this. We have it right here. We can add it to our types and say we accept an orange button now. And all we have to do where we want an orange button is render a generic button and just give it type orange. Save it, and now we have an orange button in our app. It's that simple. No making new components, no bloat, no garbage, just a great design paradigm that is easily modifiable. Now that we have this base understanding of Tailwind Variants, let's expand on this slightly. We have a variant for the type of button that we're rendering. What if we need to have more variants than just the type? For example, size. Maybe some of our buttons need to be small, and some of our buttons need to be big. If we head into our button, within the variants object here, after our type variant, we can make another variant that we will just call size, just like this, which is also an object. And let's say in here we want 3 possible sizes: a small button, a medium one, and a large one. We can say SM variant, we want it to be something like, I don't know, text SM P2. For the medium variant, we want it to be something like text LG P4. And then for the large variant, we want it to be something like text 2XL, and P6. And for our base styles, we'll just make this width fit always and take off the padding so that our size can handle it. All we need to do now is add size to our props, so we can go in here. We can say that size is either going to be SM, or it's going to be medium, or it's going to be large. And just like type, we can get size out of our props here, and we can pass the size into our Tailwind variants. What we can do is we can go ahead and save this file here, go back to our app here, and for each of these, let's give them a size. For right now, let's just hard code all of them to size SM. So we'll do that for this button, and we'll do it for all of the other buttons. And now if we go ahead and save it, all these buttons are size small. And just so I can free up space, I'll comment out this for a second. But as you can see, all of these now have the styling for a small button. They all have text SM and P2. Now that we accept both a type and a size variant, let's say we have a situation where I want this particular caution button to still be type caution, but instead of being size small, I actually want it to be large. So I can give it size LG, and now we have a large caution button. And maybe for this ghost button, I want this ghost button right here to still be ghost, but I want it to be size medium. So I can give it MD, and now we have a medium-sized ghost button. And I can essentially keep following this pattern for every different variant that I want to add to my button. For each variant we want to add, all we have to do is add it within this variants object right here. So if I wanted one for color, I could do that. If I wanted one for spacing, I could do that. If I wanted one for, I don't know, font weight, I could do that. Essentially, any possible variant that I want for any component, I can just add it to the variants here. All we have to do is add it inside this variants object, specify what it's called, so like type, and then have each different type of variant that we want, and then it just works magically. All you have to do is be sure of once that's in here that you're actually passing it through to your button styles right here, or your Tailwind variants. So if I have type and size and passing it through, that's great. If I want to add more, something like, I don't know, spacing and color, I would want to make sure I pass in spacing and color to the button styles here. Let me show you a very quick and very good improvement we can make to Tailwind variants that I think you'll find very helpful. In our button component, every single time that I want to add a new variant down here, we'll have to add another type to our props up here. So for example, let's say I want to add something to the type here. So I don't know, call this cool or something, add it in here. I would have to add cool to the type up here. In that same vein, if I added an entirely new variant, like let's say color, for example, I can make the variants in here. Then I'll have to go up here, make a type for color. I'll have to extract this out. Then I'll also have to pass it through just like this. And this is going to get really annoying over time, having to do it explicitly every single time we want to add something. If you want a super quick, super easy, type smart way to make sure all your variants are accounted for and in your component props, all you have to do is make a type for your variant props. Down here, we'll say type button variants equals variant props, and this is imported from Tailwind variants. And then we will use angled brackets, and we will just say type of button styles, just like this, making sure to reference our Tailwind variants. And now, instead of having to be explicit with all of our props up here, we can completely delete this props here. We don't even need it anymore. And right here, we will just say this is of type button variants, like this. And now it is type smart and type safe. If I hover button variants now, you can see we have type as a prop and we have size as a prop, and it has all the values that are actually inside of our variants. This makes TypeScript super, super convenient. For example, if I want to add another variant, I don't know, let's call it spacing, and then we will just call, I don't know, we'll have one called small that will have, I don't know, just some random style here. And then we will say big, that's another random style here. Now if we have this, we go ahead and hover button variants, now we can see that spacing has been added to our props. So this handles it automatically without you having to be explicit. So it's a really, really convenient feature. It provides complete type safety wherever we want to render our components at. So for right now, we have type and size because we support both of those. However, we don't have a variant for color. So if I try and do color equals something like this, TypeScript will get mad saying that color is not a valid property for this component. However, using size and type are, so it's both type safe, type smart, and it makes your life easier. So if you're using TypeScript in your app, there is zero reason to manually define your props. Just use this variant props down here and structure it exactly like this, and it'll just work like magic. Now that we know how to make multiple variants and how to do it safely with TypeScript, let me clarify a couple of things with these variants. Right now, whenever we pass in variants for type and size, these up here are going to be strings. So whenever we render them, for example, for the caution button right here, we say type is the string caution and size is the string LG. So whenever we have our variance here, we just have LG and we have obviously the type up here. These are going to be string based. However, booleans are completely fine as well. Let's say I want another variant in here. I'm just going to call it disabled. I could add that right here and I could say true. And when disabled is true, I want to be opacity 50. This will actually get evaluated as the boolean true, not the string true. So booleans work great. And actually I'll make this opacity 25 instead of 50. If I do that, and now I go up here, I extract disabled out of our props, and I also pass that through here, and then I go ahead and save it, I can go in here and throw disabled on any one of these and it will disable them. For the caution button, let's throw disabled like this, go ahead and save it, and now it's disabled. And it's really that simple. These variants can be strings or they can be booleans like this with disabled. It doesn't really matter. It evaluates the exact way that you think it should. There's really not a lot of setup to something like this with Tailwind Variants. Once it's in place, it works so smoothly. And while we're here, it's worth mentioning that as we add more variants, we're going to have to destructure each new one from button variants up here, meaning our props for this button component. For example, we just added disabled down here, so we had to go all the way up here, destructure disabled, and pass it through explicitly. This might not always be possible based on your setup, but if you're able to, I'd recommend instead of doing this and destructuring every single time, to make your life easier, just make this a single object. Don't actually destructure it. So for example, I can just call that props. And instead of doing this, we can just pass in this props object directly, save it, and now it behaves in the exact same way without us having to explicitly destructure and pass everything through. It'll just work out of the box. So now, literally the only step for adding a new variant is I could go down here and I could say, I don't know, cool could be a variant. I'll say it's a boolean, that when true, we make the scale go to 200, go here, and now if I want it to be cool, I can just throw cool on it, and now it's scale 200. Combining this method right here of taking the entire object and putting it into the variance, plus using this variant props here for type safety, makes this buttery smooth. Literally, we want to add a single thing, add it to variants, and it works out of the box, just like that. You may not always be able to do something like this depending on how your components are set up, like if you have additional props that need to be passed in. However, if you're able to do something like this, I would highly recommend it. There's one more thing I want to mention before we end this video, and that is, in our app component right now, we're defaulting most of our buttons to this size equals SM right here to make all them small by default. However, having to default each of them explicitly is a little bit annoying, and we can actually handle that super easily inside of our button variants. So if we go back to our button variants here, we can simply, below this whole variance object right here, we can go below it, and we can say default variance like this, which is also an object. And for example, we would do something like size, like this, is just the string SM. Now what I can do is we default it to size, so I can save this, go into our app, take this, and literally remove all three of these, and they still default to the small size, but I don't have to be explicit about it because we listed in here that small is our default size variant. If I later want to change what the default is, that's super easy. I say, okay, I don't want small to be the default anymore, I actually want large to be the default, so I'll change this to LG, and now all of them are large by default. It's really just that simple. Defaulting is not complicated at all. We just add whatever default variance we want in this default variance object, and we're instantly set and ready to go. Another instance, for example, if we had for the type, I say I want the confirm button to be the default button. I can say type confirm like this, and if I could actually spell this, comma here, and let's say I don't specify the type on this ghost button, for example, just get rid of it. It's going to default to the confirm button, so the green one, because we said that confirm is the default. That easy. And with that, we're going to wrap up this video. I want to emphasize that this is not just a library that I found that I think is really cool. This is the way I architect most of my components if I'm able to, especially when working on apps that can get larger in size. As I mentioned, I use this library professionally for a very, very good reason. If you want to use Tailwind in your app and have it scale well with size and complexity, I'd argue Tailwind Variants is a non-negotiable. Try it out for yourself, and I promise you won't regret using it and learning it. This was not meant to be a comprehensive tutorial of every single thing that Tailwind Variants does. There are some things like compound variants and extending that I didn't cover. If you're interested in me doing a more comprehensive and in-depth tutorial on Tailwind Variants, please let me know in the comments, and if there's enough interest, I'd be more than happy to do so. With that being said, take care everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.